A Big Mac.
All right, welcome back. President Trump went on a bit of a Twitter rampage last night. The commander-in-chief launched an attack on his own attorney general today, calling him weak and called him beleaguered.
But that is not the only presidential behavior that's raising eyebrows. In fact, there's a lot to talk about here tonight. Let's bring in Democratic strategist Emily Tish Sussman, who is joining us right here via Skype. Emily, thanks so much for joining us. Also joining us today, Republican strategist Spencer Sullivan, and also Cindy Crane, clinical psychotherapist. Guys, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having us.
Emily, let's start with you. I want to talk about the president's tweets today, slamming his attorney general. I was stunned to see him what seemed to be disrespecting the attorney general. We know the attorney general or the Justice Department is supposed to be independent of the White House, but the president seems to want to direct who's running it. What was your take when you saw these tweets?
Yeah, he does not seem to be aware that they should be independent. He is obsessed with trying to defend himself, defend his reputation, and it's really at the expense of the American people. Look, the Senate is currently voting on a bill, voted on this afternoon, on a bill that will affect a sixth of the economy, and they don't know what's in the bill. And yet the president can't get past his own perception of himself. He's totally obsessed with it.
All right, so Spencer, this is the president's guy. Jeff Sessions was one of the first senators to come out in favor of him to support him on the trail. The president picked him to be attorney general. A lot of senators came to his defense today.
Yeah, and let's just say this. At least with the president, you always know where you stand, right? There's no question of where you stand, up or down. I read a great op-ed in the Washington Post this weekend by an editor of the Ohio Times-Gazette, which said there's basically two types of news. There's the inside the Beltway news, the tweets, the political stories, the Axios stories, in which folks like myself get wrapped up in and care so much about.
Us too.
Right. And then there's the outside the Beltway news. There's the rural parts of the country, Trump country, in which he won, which most of the folks don't even have broadband yet, right? And those folks aren't reading the tweets. They're not reading the spin. They're not really caring about what he said on the stump today. What they care about, right, is the newest big dollar discount store that came to the town, so they don't have to drive 50 minutes to another discount store. They care about the new doctor that came to town that they read about in the newspaper, so they don't have to drive 45 minutes to see a specialist, right? They care about all these things that matter to them. They care about an updated bus route for their kids going to school, so they know when to send their kids out to the bus stop. Right?
I get that, but I mean, is this presidential? Is this the person that you want?
Modern presidential.
Right. I mean, representing the United States is the face of the United States, the leader of the free world, and you know, what are other countries thinking about us?
I don't think that's for us to answer. Again, I think it gets back to the folks outside the Beltway. You look at his Twitter, and of course, we've never seen someone use Twitter the way the President Trump has used Twitter. But let's face it, he's bypassed a large part of this population to get directly to the voters, and it's been successful. It's been
well, I mean, it's been successful, except they'll be deeply disappointed when they find out that the counties that voted for him are going to be the most impacted by the health care bill that he's now championing. So he actually his policies actually are deeply impacting them. I don't think we can write it off so much. I think what we do see from a lot of Trump surrogates is a frustration that the Trump White House puts out a message every week. They're saying this is the theme of the week, and the news media doesn't follow it. How could anybody?
I think what we're seeing here is just a complete distraction from a collapse of what Obamacare is. Obamacare is completely failing.
Yeah. I want to bring Cindy because she's sitting here patiently. What is your takeaway from all the dissection of the tweets and all this form of communication that we haven't seen presidents use much before?
Well, look, this guy was not presidential before he became president. He was his own boss. He didn't have normative rules. He created a dynasty by creating some chaos, by evoking reactivity out of his rivals for his own purposes. And I think we're having trouble keeping up with what is his strategy, because it is kind of going around what we know is traditionally presidential.
Speaking of that, I want to show you a sort of hit social media, another sort of cringeworthy moment when the president was talking to the Boy Scouts of America. Let's take a listen.
You know, I go to Washington and I see all these politicians. And I see the swamp, and it's not a good place. In fact, today I said we ought to change it from the word swamp to the word cesspool, or perhaps to the word sewer. But it's not good. Not good. And I see what's going on, and believe me, I'd much rather be with you. That I can tell you.
He started out the whole jamboree by saying, "I'm not going to talk about politics," and then it was almost it looked like a stump speech out there. There were some people that said, that he was in his element. There are some people that say the president should have brought politics up there. Is it a matter of not the right message at the right time, or?
Look, do I think that his speechwriters would have wished he stayed on script? Yes. Does the president have a tendency to go off script? Absolutely, right? But what we see here is just a president who has his own pulse on the people. And we saw his new communication director say that there's no one else better connecting with the people than the president in terms of communication pulse on the people.
But he was connecting with children. I mean, he's talking about who was hot at a party in New York, and there were parents in the audience that were like,
he's not the typical traditional president, right? But for that exact same reason, the typical traditional president was rejected in terms of Hillary Clinton. So he was elected by folks who didn't want to see the same old, same old.
Emily, we're about out of time. You want to jump in real quick here?
Yeah, I think that President Trump and his surrogates are the only one that don't remember that he's still running against Hillary Clinton. That election is over. He is now the president. He has to own it. He has to own every piece of it.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We wish we could continue